Chapter 13. L.I.E.S. The door slammed and locked behind Troy. Liam breathed for what felt like the first time in hours. In his next breath, he said, "We need to get out of here." But as he shifted to stand up, Jax yanked Liam back down against the wall of the stairwell. "Hold up," Jax said in a rushed whisper. "It's all dark down there. If you step in front of the window, they'll see you." Liam pressed his back against the wall again, wishing he could disappear into it. "Fudge sticks. You're right." "Fudge sticks? Really?" "What? My dad always wanted me to keep it PG. Old habits die hard." "Whatever." Jax rolled their eyes. "So, we're trapped? At least until they get so wrapped up in whatever they're getting into that we can dart past the windows without them noticing." Liam leaned forward an inch to see past Jax into the window. "They're just standing in a circle around that pentagram." Liam gulped. As he and Jax watched, Troy ascended to a high-backed leather chair set on a dais of sorts. The L.I.E.S. banner was a backdrop behind him. Whatever this ceremony was, Troy was presiding over it, set up as boy king of the underworld. Blaze and Samantha were seated in chairs a step lower to either side, prince and princess or duke and duchess in a depraved royal court. "This isn't a party I'd like to be invited to," Liam said. "This is downright medieval," Jax said. They couldn't hear Troy through the window, but his eyes were still dark with familial chaos. Blaze and Samantha on either side of Troy did their best to match his somber air. Before them, the Frat brothers and sisters gathered in a tightening knot. They held hands and swayed in unison around the pentagram. With a signal from Troy sulking back into his throne, Samantha snapped her fingers and her sisters began to chant. Blaze clapped and the brothers joined in. From the opposite sides of the pentagram, Dilworth and Jane produced small vials of burgundy fluid sealed with corks. Their eyes met, their faces lit by the glow of the votives. They removed the corks from the vials and poured the contents out into the circle. Both of them uttered additional incantations, a hand pressed to their chest, their eyes closed in reverence. "Is that blood or wine?" Jax asked. "I'm not sure I want to know." The candles grew in their brightness. The shadows that loomed against the walls and ceiling grew into deeper shades of black. The darkness began to shift, at first in cadence with the motion of the fraternity brothers and sorority sisters, but then the shadows fell out of sync, moving independently. Liam searched the room for what might be casting them, but could see nothing more than the hooded figures of the students. "What the—" The candlelight flickered again. The chalk lines of the pentagram radiated a bright red glimmer. A shape streamed out of the circle. It was gray and formless, circling overhead, a single ribbon of smoke. It was joined by a second, then a third, and even a fourth. The arrival of these apparitions incited the students to raise their voices even louder. Liam and Jax could now hear their chants through the window. "It doesn't even sound like English," Jax said. "Looks like Blaze and Samantha are talking to those shapes," Liam said. Blaze and Samantha both now held giant books in their laps. Liam didn't see where they had gotten the books, which were held together by leather covers and metal latches. Inky handwriting snaked across the pages. Blaze and Samantha moved their hands and spoke out over the chants of their brothers and sisters, calling out to the swirling shapes. The smoky phantasms began to cluster over their heads, assembling into something like a worm ball. Troy watched from his throne, a scowl still set on his face, looking like a dark and angry lord. One of the floating wisps twisted and curled, spinning down into one of the sorority sisters and disappearing into her chest. Her body shuddered. Her eyes snapped open, alive with delight before her own pupils disappeared in a red-orange glow. The light passed, but not before the girl began to levitate into the air. "Liam," Jax hissed, pulling on his arm. Two more shapes that had not been there before had emerged in the center of the circle, rising upward as if on a slow elevator. The figures were human-shaped, their features slowly coalescing, materializing out of the smoky haze. "This is bad. This is real bad," was all Liam could say. "Liam, call Gerald. He'll know what's going on." It was a good idea. After all, this had all the appearance of some demon summoning or seance, and nothing about it looked benign. But what if Gerald was part of all this? What if he was evil too, part of a campus-wide invasion of— "Liam, what are you waiting for?" Fine, Liam said. Gerald couldn't be worse than the man-shaped figures that were coming together in the center of that circle, man-shapes that now looked to have horns or crowns on their heads. Even more ribbons of darkness were streaming forth from the portal on the floor, circling in the air only to descend down into the students and slipping into their mouths and noses. More students' eyes flashed strange hues before they began to levitate and hover. Gerald. With a pop, Gerald was next to them. He appeared as his usual gargoyle self, except this time he was wearing a purple t-shirt. "You rang?" Gerald asked in a voice overly keen for the circumstances. His wings were flapping through hemmed slits in his shirt. He floated dangerously close to the window. "Shh," Liam hushed. He overcame his reluctance to actually touch Gerald and grabbed him, pulling the demon down and out of view. Gerald was surprisingly solid, if scaly, except for the soft t-shirt, the front of which read, "With a shirt like this, who needs pants?" "Hey, that's from our spring line," Jax blurted. "Why, yes, it is a great selection you all have. I did have to make some modifications for the wings." "That saying was one of mine," Jax said. "A well-crafted quip, I must say." Gerald gave Jax as deep a bow as the tiny space would allow. Jax returned it with a dap. Liam did his best to ignore the implications of Gerald not wearing any pants. "Focus, people," he said, channeling Jeannie as much for himself as his two companions, who were in the process of blowing up their dap with the accompanying sizzle shakes and jazz hands. "Gerald, we have a situation," Liam said, taking the gargoyle literally by the horns and steering him to face the basement. Gerald's wings folded back and went still. His tail curled around his body, and he dropped down to the ground with a plop. He pulled close to both of them, shaking. "Oh dear, this is bad." "That's what I said." "Gerald, what's going on?" Jax asked, but the demon's tail unfurled to cover their mouth. "Oh, so now you're so discreet," Liam said, before the tip of Gerald's wing snapped up to cover his mouth, too. Gerald repeated in a low whisper, "This is really bad." Liam tried to say again that that was what he had just said, only it came out garbled beneath the pressure of Gerald's wing, which, close up, smelled a bit like Havarti cheese. As they watched, the room turned into a swirling mass of bodies. It was like a video Liam had seen of the International Space Station, with everyone moving around the basement as if there were no gravity whatsoever. Students were doing flips and barrel rolls through the middle of the room. Some had even begun to shoot sparks from their fingertips. The charges crackled across the room like bolts from a giant Tesla coil. Laughter took the place of solemnity. The two shadowy figures had moved from the center of the circle to converse next to one another. They had taken on the appearance of men, one with a pale blue-white complexion, the other with a more golden glow to his skin. Each wore a trim designer suit and would have looked like music producers or old-world royalty, if not for the ram horns jutting from their slick-backed mafioso hair and the circlets of gold crowning their heads. A line of sorority sisters and frat brothers formed before each figure, as if they were queuing up for office hours with their most popular professors. Even more shapes and shadows shifted against the walls. The room was becoming crowded with slow-forming supernatural beings. Gerald lifted his tail and wingtip from Jax's and Liam's mouths. "What's going on?" Liam asked in the smallest of whispers. "It's a full-blown ingress," Gerald said, gargoyle eyes wide, lips curled downward. "But I thought all that lore was lost on this planet." "Maybe that was mentioned in the briefing binder," Liam said. Gerald tisked. "I really do need to check that orbit again, see if I can find that binder." You still haven't? Now it was Jax who covered Liam's mouth to interrupt him. So, an ingress. What is that, Gerald? Is that like what you talked about before, like a summoning? No. This is much, much worse. These demons, you see, they have come through, but they are not bound. Not at all. These idiots have just opened a portal willy-nilly. These demons can do anything they want once they've gathered the powers they need. Do the Deltas and Rose even know what they're doing? Jax asked. Most certainly not. Devils lie and deceive for power and influence. It's how evil works. They draw their power from bending the will of their victims to their own. They draw you humans in with the favors and promises they bestow. That is what Belphegor and Pazuzu are doing right now. Belphegor and Pazuzu? You mean those two guys in suits and circlets? Liam pointed to the two well-dressed men in black. Yup. You know them? Jax asked. Well, never actually met them, but, well, everyone knows who they are. They are some high-ranking muckety-mucks. Ranking, like hit points or something? Jax followed up. No, more like titles, lordships and such. They're old spirits going way far back in your history, but they don't normally work together. Belphegor is a post-Christianity devil, Pazuzu a Syrian Babylonian. They're both princes, or kings, depending on whom you ask and which sources you prefer, Binsfeld's classification of demons, or the Necronomicon. Gerald waved his hand. It's all very convoluted, and one of the reasons they are usually fighting with one another. Wow, like real housewives, Jax said. Good comparison, actually, Gerald said, before he ducked down again as a Rose sister did a somersault past the window. Gerald kept his eyes just above the edge of the sill. Jax and Liam followed suit. They could see a third figure coalescing from the shadows. This one was a woman with sharp features. Her skin was dark, her eyes smoldering, and her lips rounded into a smile that was part intriguing, part inviting. Her hair fell in an obsidian waterfall, wafting gently across her backside. She wore a long, silhouette-hugging dress. The frat boys in line for Pazuzu and Belphegor floated out of their places to form a queue in front of her, drawn like bugs to a bug zapper. Liam felt a stirring in his own chest and, against his better judgment, found himself wondering if he could get in line as well. A painful pinch on his arm from Gerald broke Liam out of his trance. Snap out of it, lover boy. That's Lamashtu, daughter of Anu. Trust me, you don't want anything she's offering. Sure. Yeah, Liam said dreamily, although he really couldn't imagine that anything she had to offer could be less than mind-blowing. Even if it was bad, just to be a little closer to her. Earth to Liam, Jax said, this time slapping his face. Eyes up here. Wow. Oh, sorry. She has such allure. To say the least, Gerald said, and usually she and Pazuzu are bitter enemies. If they've set aside their differences to be in the same room, much less work together, something big has got to be in the works. Really big. Like they're taking over the whole frat? The whole university? Bigger. Think planetary. Whoa, Liam and Jax said together. Belphegor is a demon of sloth, inventor of devices that will make you rich but end up torturing you for all eternity. He looks like he's promising some ideas for tech startups with Blaze. Pazuzu is promising Chelsea eternal life. So unfair, Jax said. Oh, no, you don't want what Pazuzu is giving, especially eternal life. Even if Chelsea survives that long, these things come with a catch. Eternal life without eternal youth is a curse. She'll be a 500-year-old crone falling apart, begging for death before it's all over. If she survives. Yeah, because these kids have other problems. Those wispy things they're letting take possession of them, those are sylphs, airy spirits, mischievous but not too harmful. But there are lemuri swimming around in there too. Those are the blue-silver ones, casing the joint and waiting their turn. They are evil dead from pre-Christian Rome. Bad guys, and they won't leave a body without a fight. Oh, I see them, Jack said. They're a little more sparkly than the others, and they're not half as bad as the obeah, which you all won't be able to see at all. They're invisible on this plane because they are cursed to never have bodies outside the spirit realm. Doesn't mean they don't try, though. They will flay the skin off their victim and wear it as a coat. And you can see them? Those obeah? Liam asked with a shiver. Yes, and if she were here, your dreamwalker friend with a bow staff would be able to as well. You mean Esmeralda? Jack said. Yes, her. And by the way those obeah are sizing up some of your classmates, they should be very, very worried. Liam turned to the dais against the far wall. Even Troy was floating now. His foul mood had lifted. Troy smiled, looking bemused, satisfied, and maybe a bit high. As he levitated, his body eclipsed the words, Legion of Intrepid Evil Servants. Gerald followed Liam's gaze. Your friends have it all wrong about who is the servant and who is the master here. They're not my friends, Liam protested. That was when something else moving against the shadows caught his attention. With the dancing of bodies and flickering candlelight, it was hard to make out what it was. Liam thought he could make out leathery dragon wings, a scorpion tail, a leonine body. The odd mishmash of unmatched animal parts moved as one, stalking on the periphery of the room. When the bodies parted, Liam caught the gleam of shark's teeth. What is that? He asked, poking Gerald and pointing. Pazuzu's pet and our cue to exit, Gerald said. Gerald wrapped his wings around both of them, drew them in close with his claws, and said, I hope you haven't eaten too recently, otherwise this is about to get messy. Then, everything was darkness and screaming. Chapter 14. Emesis. Liam, Jax, and Gerald reappeared back in Lambeth House. Liam's workshop, to be precise. Liam promptly vomited on himself. He realized the screams he had heard while squeezing through the interdimensionality of wherever they had just passed through had been his own. The rapid apparition had the same effect on Jax, who at least had their wits about them to whip off their facilities worker cap and vomit into it. Liam wasn't as quick thinking. The stinking remnants of his lunch, provided through the kindness of Officer Torres, dribbled out his soggy face mask and spread out over his fluorescent yellow safety vest. Being face deep in his own puke only caused Liam's stomach to clench and contract again. This time, at least, he got his mask off first. Between heaves, it registered in the vortex of Liam's still spinning brain that they were not alone. The lights in the workshop were on. Ian was buzzing about in dragonfly mode. Mitchell sat on the workbench wearing a pair of safety goggles. He looked up from the DMA. The trombone case with Liam's mother's stickers was open off to the side. Zowza, Mitchell said, jumping. Gerald was all apologies. Very sorry about that. Wormhole travel is tough on baryonic beings. If it's any consolation, now you know what it's like to be spaghettified through a singularity such as a black hole. Jax expressed their gratitude through a further series of Ralphs. Having filled up their hat, Jax crawled over to the wastebasket and leaned their head down inside. More retching followed. Liam tried to resist further contractions of his torso. His sides ached and his nose and throat burned with stomach acid in all the wrong places. He struggled to sit upright against the cabinets. Was this what frat boys felt like after a night of partying? If so, Liam definitely did not understand the draw. After filling his hat up, Liam looked up at Mitchell, who sat grimacing at the sounds and sights of the two of them and their involuntary emesis. Normally, Liam might be angry at this unauthorized use of the DMA and trespass to his workshop, but just then it was taking all his effort not to barf again. Ah, young Mr. Mitchell, good to see you, Gerald said, tipping an invisible hat. Any progress with the DMA? This was when Liam wanted to add, which he had no permission to touch, but he knew if he opened his mouth, it wasn't words that would fly out. Nothing too unusual. We tested it up to levels 3 and 4, Mitchell said. Some interesting readings and phenomenon, which I recorded for you, sir, Ian said, floating down alongside Liam. I hope you don't mind, Mr. Liam. I thought that after what you said about lab partners, you would be amenable to Mitchell working on the DMA, provided I supervised. His minor does give him some valid qualifications." Liam waved his hand. The sound of Ian's electronic voice, maybe the buzzing of his wings, maybe everything, was making him more nauseous. Ian picked up on the hint and floated a few inches farther away. Liam tried to calm down, reminding himself that at least Ian had been there to monitor the tests. But now, Liam's addled mind seemed only able to focus on Mitchell's shirt. The orange lettering ran alongside the silhouette of what appeared to be a cowboy riding a T-Rex. If history repeats, I want a T-Rex. Mitchell wore the look of a little brother caught rifling through his big brother's room without asking. Liam knew full well that the kid genius likely knew even more than he did about theoretical physics. He knew Ian had recorded the test, but Liam still felt a surge of unreasonable protectiveness, possessiveness even, over the DMA, pointedly because Mitchell was not his brother. The DMA had not belonged to Mitchell's father, but Liam's, and it was all Liam had left of Tom Riley. "Just don't do it without me again," Liam said, his temper dissipating as he took a deep breath, fighting the wobble in his stomach. He really could only focus on one thing at a time just now. Otherwise, he'd be in for another ride on the Chowder Train Express. "Sorry, I won't," Mitchell said. He looked down at Liam's spew-covered vest. Liam promptly began to tear it off and throw it in the sink. "Gerald, maybe you could explain what the hell just happened while I get some water for me and Jax," Liam said, leaning on the counter for support. Gerald did, relating what they had seen in a quick summary to Mitchell, who listened, rapt. Mitchell pulled over his notebook, flipped to a fresh page, and began jotting down notes as Gerald switched back and forth between explanation and speculation. "This can only mean a coordinated plan involving the highest orders of the devil and demon hierarchy," Gerald said. Wait, Jax croaked from where they leaned over the table, their head just lifting from resting on their arms, their complexion still greenish. "If they're demons and you're a demon, why are you not on their side? How can we trust you?" Gerald tapped the side of his fanged mouth with the nail of one of his fingers. "A valid question, young Jax. It's where language association and connotation have muddied the waters over the millennia. You see, demons were not always bad. The demons, or daemons of ancient Greece, the Wan Yudo of Japan, boors of Dark Ages Europe, the Chinese fox, some Hindu asura, many African orishas, and the genie of the Middle East, these are all helpful spirits, or at least neutral as far as humans are concerned. These other, more malevolent beings showing up in your fellow classmate's basement are what you humans would consider devils." "What's the difference?" "That is exactly the point. In ancient times, there was a strong distinction between malevolent and helpful, devils being the former and demons the latter. Devils were the misfits at one end of the spectrum. Angels, seraphim, and other stuffed shirt stick-in-the-mud rule-follower wet blanket entities were the other extreme." "Let me guess where you fit in," Jax said, stifling a gurgling burp. "We demons were stuck in the middle, between the upward and downwardly mobile," Gerald preempted. "Those goody-goody angels and seraphim have always been worried about their reputations. They're always sucking up to their bosses, and they're perennially too snooty to be associated with lowly demons like myself. As human mages and magicians started to gather lore as to how to summon and bind us demons, it was in our interest to be associated with the devils, at least to garner some level of intimidation and mystique. Better to be feared than loved, as they say." "Uh-huh," Liam nodded, the movement alone causing another wave of sickness. He decided he would rest his forehead on the counter as he kept listening. "But it didn't help that wizards often summoned us to do nefarious things, mainly to other wizards," Gerald groused. "Sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't," Jax groaned. Gerald snapped his fingers. "You are more right than you know." Gerald gave Jax a hearty pat on the back. "You really are a bright one." Jax flinched. "If you touch me like that again, You're going to see another technicolor yawn here. Oh, so sorry. So, Gerald, in the hierarchy of supernatural or dark matter beings, whatever you are, you demons are sort of neutral? Liam asked, talking into the surface of his counter, squeezing his eyes open and shut with the effort of holding things down. So to speak, yes. With your angel councils governing you, mostly, like the Karmic Balance Committee. Correct, young Liam. I'd pat you on the back too, but I think we've had enough chunder thunder, if you know what I mean. Appreciated. And like I said, those angels and the like, they're always trying to impress their bosses with how well they manage the rabble like us. We are pawns in their quest to brown nose. A terrible fate in life, Liam said. Who would have thought angels were so snooty? Jack said. Oh, and the Nephilim are even worse. Inferiority complexes the size of a red hypergiant star. Wait, what about devils, Gerald? Liam asked, trying to head off another tangent. Oh, devils are the worst, Gerald began. That is why they are devils. But you're saying demons are more like Switzerland? Neutral-like. Something like that. We can be benevolent, mischievous, or malevolent. It runs the gamut. But you do evil things if mages bind you and order you to. Like slaves, Gerald exclaimed. You said do, Mitchell giggled. We hear you, Gerald. We hear you. Please, inside voice. My head still hurts, Jax pleaded. So sorry. But it makes sense, Mitchell said, trying to recover from his doo-doo joke falling flat. For the demons, I mean, to be associated with the devils. It's for their own protection. Thank you, young Mitchell. I see that you are wise beyond your years as well. I certainly feel like I've learned a lot today, Jack said, putting their head down again with a finger twirl followed by a hiccup. But what about what's happening at Delta House? Liam asked, still not sure what to do or think about it all. That, Gerald said, pointing toward the ceiling and raising his voice again. When Liam and Jax cringed, he lowered it. Sorry, the demon whispered. That is a full-scale invasion that can only be leading to a widespread possession of human hosts. Spiritual beings have no permanent corporal bodies unless we take possession of a living host. Then we, inhabit this plane indefinitely. Then why don't they possess everyone now? Mitchell asked. Free will. It's what protects your souls. To overcome it takes time, but it's not impossible. Like hacking a computer, Jack said. A good metaphor, but if a host can be corrupted and turn over themselves to possession willingly, well, all the better. A social hack, Jack said. You said Belphegor, Pazuzu, and Lamashtu were granting favors, Liam said. Powers, too, all the better to entice their victims, earn their trust, then lure them into letting down their guards, then snap. It's too late. Gerald spiked his fist into his palm and closed it like a trap. Power corrupts. Blah, 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 Jax mumbled, their face buried in their arms. Those Delta boys and Row sisters were pretty corrupted to start with, if you ask me, Liam said. This has to be why the council sent me here. They must have gotten wind of something, Gerald said, flying in a loop. Great! Can you go tell the council and get their help? Mitchell asked, pushing his goggles up into his unruly hair to see Gerald more clearly. Gerald descended toward the floor. It's hard for a lower-level demon like myself to get on their docket, especially one on probation. I thought you were honorary regent of the scepter of something and steward of, well, something else, Jack said. Honorary regent of the scepter of Sheol and steward of the Doomsday Tome. Yeah, scepter of Sheol and Doomsday Tome and all that. I am, Gerald said, straightening. And you should speak those hallowed names with the reverence they deserve. Maybe when I'm not feeling like I'm about to take the big porcelain bus for a drive. All right? I don't know how hallowed your titles can be if they can't get you an audience with this council, Liam said. Yeah, sounds like demonkind has a problem with title inflation, Mitchell observed. Gerald snorted. Well, something like that has been said before, but bureaucracy is, sadly, a universal force. Right up there with the laws of thermodynamics and grade inflation, apparently, Liam said. Then we have to do something ourselves. Jax lifted their head out of the cradle of their arms and curled their hands into fists. Wait, against a demon army? Devil, Gerald corrected Liam. Devil army. Demons are unfortunate bystanders getting sucked into this. Fine, devil army. I gotta tell Janie and Ez, Mitchell said, reaching for his phone. No! Liam was surprised that he, Jax, and Gerald all said this at the same time. The three of them went quiet, each of the same mind, but waiting for the others to speak. Jax broke the silence first. This is exactly the kind of trouble Dean Carver told Esmeralda to keep us out of. You might be right, Mitchell said. That's why we should tell them, right? Wrong, Liam said. They might try to stop us, but if we act now, we could actually turn things around. Gerald tentatively cleared his throat. The Horde would not be at full strength yet. If we could slip into the premises, maybe on a Friday night when everyone is partying, and steal those books they were reading from, I'd say we'd be on our way to nipping this ingress in the bud, without even disturbing the Karmic Discipline Committee. Then yours truly would definitely be returned to good standing. And you would help me figure out the DMA? Liam said, looking sidelong at Gerald, recognizing they had entered into a negotiation of sorts. Perhaps. While I am no expert, an arrangement might be made wherein I could share what knowledge I do have, Gerald said, resting his chin on his hand, his eyes narrowing as they shifted from Liam to the DMA and back. Oh yeah, I am all for this, Jax said, slapping the table. Liam was aware of Ian buzzing now just off his right shoulder. The AI was like an angel of his better nature, counseling him against this plan. Even if the AI said nothing, Liam already knew Ian wouldn't approve. On a purely reasonable and logical level, it probably made sense to get help and advice from Jeannie and Esmeralda. But that felt like asking permission. Liam had never been one to ask permission. He was at his best when he was his own boss. Liam found himself staring at the DMA and the trombone case alongside it. All these complications had come about because he had needed help with the DMA. Hadn't Mitchell, despite Liam's initial grumbling about it, already helped some? In that regard, having lab partners was proving to be useful. But Liam didn't want to give them total control of his lab or his life by any means. When he got what he wanted, Liam could always just ignore the other Lambeth kids, drop them once he'd finished testing the DMA. Who knew? Maybe his parents might even be back by then. He might not even need friends or lab partners after that. I'm in, Liam said, looking over to Mitchell. Liam knew he could pressure Mitchell to agree, younger and eager to please as he was, at least as long as Ian didn't pipe up with some objection, which the AI started to do at just that moment. Mr. Liam, might I? Shut it, Ian. I need to hear from Mitchell, Liam said, the drones buzzing rising in pitch as he dodged Liam's waving hand. Ian was just an AI after all. What did he understand about the complexities of people? Although Liam just hoped Ian's empathy pathways were not so developed that his feelings were hurt by being cut off. I don't know about not telling Jeannie and Ez about this, Mitchell said, twisting the corner of his lab coat. And if it's this Friday, I'll have to reschedule with my friends. Friday's our night to play Settlers of Catan. Settlers of what? Wait, never mind. Liam moved on to what he could speak to. We don't want Jeannie and Esmeralda to get into more trouble than they already are, right? Liam said, well aware that he was less interested in their reputations than his own desire not to have to answer to anyone. But how will we get in? We're not going to break in, are we? Mitchell asked. Doesn't look like it, Jack said, scrolling through their phone. There's a post here on the e-bulletin board saying Delta Beta Alpha needs a DJ for a party this Friday. You DJ? Liam asked. I don't, but Max Spins does. Max Spins? It's one of Jax's alter egos, Mitchell said, leaning forward, his elbows and forearms resting on the counter. You know how DJs don't disclose their real identities and wear masks or helmets these days? You mean sort of like Mexican wrestlers? Or marshmallow? Probably more marshmallow than Mexican wrestlers, but you're on the right track, Jax said, not looking up from their phone. But in this case, the mystique is helpful to hide the fact this DJ is non-binary. Sometimes, for business sake, it's useful to hide who you are. Sad but true, Jax said, their excitement eclipsed by a flicker of real pain. But the shadows passed and they recovered. And I'm good at makeup, too. I can disguise you both as my roadies. You can help with the fog machines, speakers, spin table, laser mounts, all that jazz. We'll walk right in, invited through the front door. Disguises? We can be completely different people. I want to wear a wig, Mitchell said, committed now. Liam was pleased and surprised at once at how easy it had been to turn him. We'll be hiding in plain sight, Jack said. Sounds good, Liam said. Sounds a lot better, actually, than wormhole travel or whatever we just did. Yeah, about that, Jax said, tugging on their soggy shirt. I think I need to take a shower. Chapter 15. Jax Vader and Max Spins. It was just a matter of passing the next 2 days and keeping Mitchell from wavering in his commitment and maintaining the utmost secrecy, or more likely, keeping him from blurting something out due to his sheer excitement at the prospect of a caper. Do you think we'll need a pulley and wire set like in Mission Impossible? Mitchell asked Thursday afternoon while he and Liam tested the DMA to levels 5 and 6. After the run-in with the Delta boys, they had decided it was mostly safe enough to do the tests in the workshop and not out on the river. With Ian's help, they recorded elevated levels of ordinary neutrinos. The braiding of fields Ian had registered on earlier tests was evolving to a whole folding of space-time. However, none of it manifested in the visible spectrum yet, except for that amethyst aura forming a torus of light around the front of the array. A few items on the countertop shifted as the electromagnetic and gravitational waves went into flux, but otherwise there were no dramatic results. No pulley, no wires, Liam said, scrolling through screens of data loading onto his laptop. Too bad, Mitchell said, calibrating the Geiger-Muller counter to monitor radiation levels. Aligned with the theme of lab safety, Mitchell's t-shirt displayed a T-Rex wearing safety goggles, a bike helmet, as well as elbow and knee pads. In the T-Rex's undersized arms, he clutched a pencil and clipboard, the latter presumably holding a safety checklist. The lettering above and below the T-Rex read, "Check yourself before you Rex yourself." Liam tried to redirect Mitchell's Mission Impossible fixation to something else. How is the Life Gives You Lemons t-shirt series coming along? We still haven't settled on one phrase yet, Mitchell said. Finished calibrating the Geiger counter, he took a reading. Liam was relieved that the cracking noise was within normal parameters, letting them know their probability for contracting cancer had not significantly increased. Yet. Right now, in the spirit of public service, we're exploring a vitamin deficiency theme, Mitchell continued. We're torn between when life gives you lemons, say, yay, vitamin C, or when life gives you lemons, say thank you because scurvy sucks. They worked into the night until both were red-eyed and sleepy. The next day, Friday, Liam followed the letter of Aunt Cece's instructions, if not the spirit. That afternoon, his schedule was open, along with Jeannie's and Esmeralda's, so the three of them, technically four with Mkali, picked up trash on the south lawn of the President's Hall. Liam found it difficult to make small talk with the girls. He'd never been good at it in the first place, and he was especially worse when he was concentrating on not giving away details about their plan to steal the spellbooks that very night, the operation otherwise known as POOPER SSCOOPER. Professional Operative Obfuscation Plan effective right away for super secret clandestine operation probable for extracting revenge. This was Mitchell's name, of course. He had insisted that calling their caper POOPER SSCOOPER would keep people from asking questions. Liam still wanted to facepalm every time he thought of the name, but it was a small concession if it kept Mitchell's mouth shut. But if Mitchell was excited, Liam was jittery. The party was just hours away, and there were still so many uncertainties. Jax had reassured Liam over numerous texts the past few days that they had everything under control. Jax said that they'd be dropping such righteous beats, no one would be aware in the slightest that someone might be breaking into the creepy occult room in the basement of Delta House. Plus, Jax, to Mitchell's delight, promised thorough disguises for them all. Jax told Liam not to worry. Gerald told Liam not to worry. Even Mitchell told Liam not to worry. So, Liam tried not to worry. As they picked up trash, Jeannie and Esmeralda soon realized that Liam was not in a talking mood. Instead, they entertained themselves discussing the t-shirt business. Liam was grateful for the distraction. Jeannie floated different names for their company, leading Liam to wonder if an affinity for clever names was something that ran in the Winskell family. "I do some of my best work in my sleep," Jeannie said, dropping a flattened sack of sun chips into the giant plastic bag that Esmeralda held open. "I wake myself up with a great t-shirt idea, like out of nowhere, so I was thinking of snoretees.org. That has potential, but it's dangerously close to snork tease," Esmeralda said, tilting the bag open as she heard the flap of Mcaulley's wings approach. The Lammergeier swooped down, banked, and dropped a plastic water bottle into the trash bag. "Don't you think that might make them litigious?" "I was hoping maybe it would make them more likely to acquire us. What do you think, Liam?" Jeannie asked, trying to include him. "Oh, yeah, that sounds great." "Liam?" Jeannie's hands full of water bottles and coffee cups fell to her sides. "Were you even listening?" Yeah. Snoring tease sounds catchy, yeah." Jeannie rolled her eyes. "He's not even listening to himself." The girls mostly ignored him after that, Liam distancing himself further. He followed a trail of peel-away prize tickets, all losers, that took him to the far side of the lawn. That helped him avoid any further friendly banter and, more importantly, any inquiries regarding his plans for the evening. When they were finished, Liam jumped on his bamboo bike and pedaled back to his workshop, mumbling some excuse to the girls about catching up on homework. When he arrived, he found Mitchell and Jax, or at least whom he took to be them, in the workshop going through a checklist next to a wagon full of DJ equipment. "Jax, is that you?" Liam asked a figure about Jax's size wearing a Darth Vader helmet glazed in purple glitter. "Hey, Liam," Jax's voice answered from behind the face of the Sith Lord. Jax Vader pointed to a silver Captain Phasma helmet on the top of a subwoofer. "We've got your helmet there." "You like my disguise?" asked a diminutive Princess Leia, wearing round headphones shaped like coiled hair braids. It's uncanny, Mitchell," Liam said, picking up and examining the Captain Phasma helmet. "You look like you should be at a Star Wars convention. Is that foundation you're wearing on your face?" "Yeah, we decided to go with a medium coverage satin finish, after hydrating my skin, of course. I learned a lot, like using a precision sponge to apply and smooth before a lighter brush to set it. I've even got some eyeshadow, too. Looks nice, doesn't it?" "Sure. Jax knows their stuff." "Yeah, all right then. And you are okay with that, gown?" "Oh, sure. It's strangely freeing. Very airy," Mitchell said, shaking his hips. Liam put his hand up. "I don't need to know any more." "Ian, can you run a quick check on the smoke and laser machines for me?" Jax asked. "Yes, Master Max spins," Ian answered. A black orb, the laser projector, came to life next to the wagon of DJ gear. The orb, covered in lenses, twisted and turned on a robotic arm. When Ian announced that all the servos were functioning, Mitchell loaded the arm into the wagon. Liam felt an increasingly familiar pang of jealousy as he realized the extent to which he was sharing Ian, his closest friend, with these people who had been strangers less than a week ago. "Ian, why don't you come along on my phone?" Liam said. Something about carrying the AI in his pocket, as opposed to having him riding along on Jax's laptop or floating overhead as a dragonfly, brought him some possessive form of comfort. "Yes, Mr. Liam, of course," the AI said, "right after I finish a diagnostic on Jax's laptop." Sure, I'm okay with that, yeah," Liam said, even if he really wasn't. He was relieved when his phone vibrated in his pocket, letting him know Ian was finally his again. Gerald appeared right after that, this time in complete Yoda garb. The demon whipped out a bright green lightsaber and began to duel with the arm holding the laser projector. "Met your match, you have, laser orb." "Hey, Gerald, you look great," Mitchell said. "You might try not floating, though," Jax said from behind their helmet. "You'll give yourself away." "I don't plan on it. I'll just go stiff," the demon said, settling atop the pile of equipment and going still, as if he were just a life-size Yoda replica. "Perfect disguise," he said through gritted teeth. Jax Vader, or Max Spins, whatever Liam was supposed to call Jax now, began pushing the wagon out the door. Mitchell's attention turned to the denatured alcohol-powered projectile cannon fashioned out of tennis ball cans and PVC pipe. His fascination for it had not diminished since his first night in the lab. "Liam, you think we might need this?" "No, Mitchell. We want inconspicuous. A denatured alcohol-powered PVC pipe tennis ball cannon is sort of the opposite. Plus, it's dangerous." "If you say so," Mitchell said, following Jax and the wagon. He pulled up on his gown so he didn't trip on it, adding unenthused, "May the Force be with us." Liam turned out the lights, grabbed the Captain Phasma helmet, and pulled it over his head. He was definitely ready to hide his face.